I'd like to start the meeting now. It is 6:30. We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Judy Drake.
Here.
Lauren Hemmings.
Here.
Christine Montag.
Here.
Joseph Wetmore.
Here.
Brock.
Here. I'd like to open the floor for a public hearing. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
We're now open for a public hearing on the Spectrum franchise agreement.
All in favor?
No, we have, okay,
I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Now we're open for public hearing. Sorry.
This is a renegotiation of the agreement between the town and Spectrum for having their cable lines for cable television to the town. We've been negotiating with them for 2 years, 3 years now,
At least.
and then we finally got an agreement. So,
We've got, anybody have anything they'd like to comment? You need,
just enlighten.
you need to come up to the mic, Tom.
I don't know what the agreement entails, so I'm just wondering what you negotiated in terms of the agreement. What were the details of it? How does it affect the residents of the town?
most of what we negotiated was better accounting with Spectrum and the town as to how they figure the franchise fee. We didn't have a lot of negotiating power on this because the 1995-96 Telecommunication Act really takes away most of the town's ability to negotiate these franchise agreements.
Does the town receive some remuneration from Spectrum?
Yes.
How much would that be?
It's 5% of the cable television gross.
So each person would be contributing 5% of a portion of their cable bill, the TV portion. So if your cable bill was $100 for the TV portion, the town is getting $5.
Right.
Yeah. But you don't have anything to do with the cost of the cable service to the.
No, in fact, what we really tried to get Spectrum to do, and they refused, was to be more transparent about what the fees would be to hook up new customers. We've heard a lot of cases in which it's kind of random how much they charge you if you're past the, 60 feet, 100 feet, I forget what it is. If you're past that point, it's kind of random what they charge, and we were trying to get that to be much more knowable. And they refused to budge on that, and we can't make them.
So what happens if you can't come to an agreement with them from the town's perspective? What happens then?
It goes to an arbiter who decides whether or not the town's requests are being reasonable or not.
Okay, all right, that answers my question. The fees are very high, and if you've checked your bill, it just continuously raises. And I understand everything goes up, but that's more than inflation for these guys.
And we can't even talk about the internet because that's prohibited, even though they're running their internet cables on town property. We can't negotiate with them on that.
Okay, is there a copy of the agreement available?
It's in the packet over there.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
In the agreement, they say that the service is going to be, exceed a certain level of, I don't know. So if we have a lot of people saying that they don't have good service, what can the town do?
That's a good question.
There's a whole enforcement section at the back. I don't remember the details, but there's an enforcement section at the back which also was strengthened up. But again, just on cable television, we can't talk about internet, even though everything's moving over to the internet. The town is prohibited by federal law to negotiate the internet at all.
Okay.
Sure. Well, we actually hired a law firm that specializes in telecommunication work to help us negotiate this because we will need some specialized help. It starts out on the page, it says Cohen Law Group at the top.
What page did you say?
Page 5. Through,
Goes all the way through 35.
Okay.
and it will take effect within 60 days of when we vote, according to this.
Okay. All right, thank you. Did anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
I move, oh,
Go ahead.
I never get to.
Christine, move by second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
All of the resolution.
Second. Sorry.
Are you on item 5 already? Okay. So are you talking about the resolution to approve the, oh, I'm sorry, we have the privilege of, okay.
I know, but I thought maybe people wanted to know what you were moving.
Yeah, I was going to read the
Okay.
resolution to approve the cable franchise agreement between Town of Lansing and Spectrum Northeast LLC. So that's what we're approving.
Joe, you moved that?
I'm sorry?
Do you want any discussion on that? Any discussion?
Oh, any discussion? Sorry.
Judy Drake?
Aye.
Lori Hemmings?
Aye.
Christine Montag?
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore? Aye. Ruth Roth?
Aye. We're now opening the privilege of the floor, which is limited to 20 minutes with a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. Does anyone have anything they'd like to?
Yes.
Yeah, so not till 60 days from now.
This is a submission for the Spectrum public hearing. She missed it, so
Oh,
she
okay.
just handed me that paper.
Okay.
And there's a particular issue.
So I have Julie Bowles. Hi, Julie. I'd like to read the policy about privilege of the floor. That is, the speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer and step to the front of the room, which you have done. You must give your name and state whether you are speaking as a resident, a member of the public, or for any person or organizations. You must limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and we will cut you off. And comments unrelated to the subject matter of the public hearing are not allowed. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they may, have to another speaker. With the permission of the presiding officer, a board or committee member may interrupt a speaker for the purpose of clarification only. All remarks shall be addressed to the board or committee as a body and not to any member thereof. Speakers shall observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste.
Thank you. Julie Bowles, resident. First, I want to thank you for publishing the newsletter. This is where I became informed about Resolution R2410C on your agenda today regarding the resolution for the future of the railroad. And so one of my first questions is, what portion of the railroad are you looking at are considering here, because the way the resolution reads, it's the railroad for the entire town of Lansing.
It would be, for the time being, we're looking at this section between Salt Point and Milliken Station, which is where it ends, because that's no longer being used. But we, if at some point in the future, whenever, 20, 30, 40 years from now, if Cargill closed, we might look at that section too. So yes, it is kind of the entire section of Lansing, but only if and when that comes about.
Okay, so I happen to live right near Salt Point, and I can tell you the railroad is still in use. They were just at my house yesterday, or Friday, I don't even know what today is, yesterday. And they go halfway to Mile Point. So that's still in use. So I'm not sure if any of you have walked the tracks or not, but I would encourage you. I've lived here most of my life. I've walked from Milliken Station all the way to Myers Park and beyond as a youngster. So my concern is some of these areas are highly dense as far as residential properties. I and others in the room tonight have properties and buildings or homes or cottages within just yards of this walkway, so I am concerned about the foot traffic that may be coming back and forth. I'm not sure how similar this is going to look or not, like the Black Diamond Trail. I walked that quite a bit too, and why the properties are there, there's really not any houses anywhere close, okay? I also would like to know, have you communicated with the residents along the railroad tracks about your plans?
I'm going to say at this point, we have no plans. And I'm going to let Joe can probably explain this better than I can.
I don't want to turn this into a back and forth.
Right.
And so I will answer some of your concerns after everyone's had a chance to speak. I'm sure that people will share your concerns, but I don't want to turn this into a back and forth because that's just going to take up a lot of time.
Okay. So then, looking at myself and others in the room, many of us have paid taxes here, paid leases to the railroad over decades. My personal family has leased this property since 1967. That's almost 60 years. This was before lake property was even on anyone's radar. Okay, my family leased the property because they wanted a place to duck hunt and to fish and put a small outboard motor to be able to do those things. Their lease started with Conrail, and of course now is we're Norfolk Southern. So what will happen with these leases, taxes, or parcels when the railroad's decommissioned and the town takes over? That's one of my questions, okay? Will the town of Lansing allow these lease agreements to continue to be in the works? Can we purchase the property? What will happen what will happen when buildings are so close? I think the railroad has 33 feet from the center of the tracks on each side. Many properties are on that line or within that area.
I'm sorry, that's your 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone else have a comment? Okay, Joe, if you'd like to respond now.
Is that all public? Sure. The town is not saying that we want to acquire the property. We're saying that we'd like to see it not necessarily go to the highest bidder. There's many reasons for that, one of which that I've seen in the past is one property owner buys the frontage of another property owner. We want to look at it as a cohesive plan rather than just necessarily seeing it all go for auction. And so we're just stating for the record that we would like to see a process other than it going up to highest bidder. Yes, we have met with a couple of residents who live on that property who are here today and talked it over with them. The town does not have a specific plan. We don't have a plan for leases. We don't have a plan for ownership. We don't have any plans other than saying at this point we think that going up for auction is not a good thing for the residents there or for the town as a whole. Did that answer your questions?
Yep, some of them, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, if there's no one else, I will move on. Department reports. Mike Mosley, Highway.
Good evening, everyone. So my report's in the packet there. We've continued to work on tree and brush removal, line of sight around town as we creep into fall. We've replaced a couple hydrants that were inoperable. We have also assisted Tompkins County Highway with the milling that was up on Lansing Road. Happy to see that going forward. It's definitely needed. I think they should be done paving now unless they had any mishap. But and the paving that took place was Lockerbie Hill to Fedorka's in the dip.
It looks really nice.
The crews worked to kind of bring Wildman Road down at the school up to par. I mean, I think a lot of people that drive that think it's part of the school. It is not. It is a town road. So crossings and proper signage is in the works of being put up. It's about 90% done. My committee meetings and what's going on in my office is there. Fleet maintenance. This has been a tough year on our equipment, to be honest with you, as you guys, I've sent you a budget mod request. Obviously, that's not going to hit the budget, the fund balance, I should say. It's moving within funds. The equipment gets older. Salt is not our friend on the equipment, and parts are not any cheaper. But Dan and Andy have been working extremely hard in order to try to put things back together. The new highway barn, I think probably Ruth has a little bit more than I do, but we're in discussion on the design schematic and moving forward to the design development phase. Right, as I spoke to intermunicipal, I do have some good news. We received in our CHIPS money from New York State, $465,000 reimbursed by New York State for the road work that we did within the town. So my goal is each year to try to get that in so it hits our books on the same calendar year that we spend it. So we did well this year. Any questions?
Was that the expected amount, or?
Yes.
Oh, good, okay.
Yep. That's what the town's allocated. Yep.
I'm curious when the sign's going to be, speed sign is going to get moved on Sand Creek Road.
It's as soon as we get the final letter from the state.
Okay.
Sometimes I have a tendency to jump the gun, and reading more thoroughly, it says, once you have received that final letter from New York State DOT, you're authorized then to put up the sign. So and I've asked Debbie in case she gets it, and I don't, if it goes to 29 Auburn Road versus 10 Town Barn, just let me know. So, yeah.
Okay, so we're just waiting on the state right now.
Yep, we have the miles per hour signs, and everything's ready to go. We're just
We have the signs, it's just moving them off the street.
just waiting.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Pat? Parks?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Obviously, our fall programming is all in full swing. I will say we've had some issues with officials and referees, as there is a very giant shortage across the state. It's been a challenge because sometimes we have to cancel games or move them or postpone them. So that's been a big challenge for us. Veterans Watch Fire is Friday night, 7 p.m. Residents and businesses can drop off pallets at Myers Park. We'll be there all week to receive those. So if you have any extra pallets or wood that's not pressure treated, please feel free to drop it off. Lansing Lighthouse 5K was last weekend. It was a very big success again. We did have a water line break at Myers Park last week, a week and a half ago. Obviously, those continue to happen, and all of you know we have some big infrastructure problems there, but we're working through them. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Welcome.
John Zepko is not here. I think he gave us each a copy of it. Did you get a copy of his report?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we got this. Debbie, town clerk's report?
My report's in the packet.
And Lansing Community Library's in the packet, Youth Services is in the packet. Didn't have one from Dave. He's not here, is he? I think Mike Sigler sent one that will end up in the minutes tonight. Did you get that email tonight?
No.
Okay.
He said I got late.
Yeah, it was really late.
Just sent it.
Well, yeah, I looked at my email the last hour.
All right. Tonight we have a presentation from Cayuga Solar Project, Jack Donlin. We'll give him a moment to get set up.
Does that need to get turned on?
You should be good.
Shouldn't be any. Okay, oh, actually, there we go. All right, thank you, members of the board, for seeing me today. Here to talk to you about and introduce the Cayuga Solar Project. So just for reference, I think the board is familiar, but Cayuga Solar is a 60 megawatt solar facility. It will be permitted through New York State through the Article 8, formerly 94C permitting process. So I'm here today just to introduce the project, kind of socialize with the town as we work to have further meetings throughout the next few weeks. And this project will be submitted to the state likely for a permit in early 2025 and will not be going to construction until sometime late 2026 or early 2027. So very much still in the early phases of development, but we've made a lot of progress, and so looking forward to sharing that with you. Really quick introduction here. I'll just introduce myself, AES, introduce the solar project, and then a little bit of the regulatory review on Article 8 versus the town, sort of zoning and siting process. So really quickly, just about me, I come from more of a technical background. I used to work as an engineer, and so this is the type of lens that I bring to these projects. I don't have the finance or business background that a lot of other developers do. So happy to talk about, kind of the physical infrastructure aspects of the project, wherever they're needed. A little bit about AES. So, AES is a big company, a global company, and really started their clean energy business here in the United States and has grown tremendously over the past 5 years. So AES is traded on the stock market and is shareholder owned, and so there's plenty of public information about AES and our portfolio throughout the country and through the world. So we have projects in most of the 50 states, including New York, where we've got a pretty significant portfolio of projects. Most of these projects you see here are small, community scale size projects. This project that we're talking about is utility scale. And AES has a lot of success in New York in the past few years. We've been successful in winning awards for power contracts from the New York State Energy Research Development Authority, NYSERDA. And we look forward to submitting this project to NYSERDA next year. So quickly about Cayuga Solar. On the right you see a map there with the purple polygons indicate where the project is located. So the project is situated just on and adjacent to the Milliken Station site. So we're utilizing the existing substation at Milliken Station to interconnect the project, and it will interconnect to those 115 kV power lines. So this is a transmission project as opposed to a distributed energy scale project. So it does connect to those large 115 kV lines. And the site is 60 megawatts, and that will shake out to be approximately 400 acres of the site footprint, and I'll share a site plan here next and talk about some of the unique details of the project. And like I said, the project will likely go into construction in 2026 or 2027, and then be completed and operational in 2028. So here is a civil layout of the project where you see the teal color is the solar panels. There's wetlands, water bodies, and other features identified on the site plan as well, including residential homes and setbacks that were applied. So all the engineering so far has been done in accordance with the Lansing town laws regarding solar. So there's nothing really on the design side that we'd be seeking waivers for, or that we would not look to work with the town on their solar law. There are a few situations where there's some ambiguity in the solar law where some of our folks have taken a look at it and just not been sure what the substantive aspects of certain provisions are. So we'll look to talk with the town further about that and where we see potential just clarifications on certain aspects of the town laws. So we did look to use as much of the Milliken Station footprint as possible. It's about a 400-acre site where that old coal plant is. That site, there's a significant amount of topography, a lot of streams as well. So we were avoiding all those, which led to us not being able to use as much of that site as we would have liked. And so you see we've got agreements with private landowners adjacent to that coal facility, or the dormant coal facility, where we have full site control and have been working on all our studies and environmental aspects of the project. So here's just another type of layout of the facility design, and here I'll get into a little bit of details on some of the unique aspects of the project. So with the streams that run through the site and Lansing's town law on not disturbing within 50 foot of those streams, we do have some nice natural corridors for wildlife to move through the site east and west from the lake up to kind of flatter land to the east. And additionally, this site will be kind of a one-of-a-kind agrivoltaics facility. So for the past year and a half or so, we've been working with a local university who specializes in this type of solar PV research and specifically incorporating crop production underneath solar panels. So what we've done here is taken out about 40 acres of land and dedicated that to specifically studying different aspects of solar and how crops are successful or not based on different types of solar designs. So racking heights and inter-row spacing. So basically determining how much light is needed underneath the solar panel to grow crops, as well as seeing how those types of crops actually lead to greater production in solar. So it's a great benefit for both solar developers and farmers who are interested in growing crops under land that is becoming solar. So I see a really positive benefit here, and we hope that this will be something where local universities can bring others throughout the country, throughout the world, folks who want to learn more about best practices in solar design and agrivoltaics. So we're really excited about this project, and it really is one of a kind throughout New York State. AES has a lot of these projects in New York State, and nobody's doing this type of design. So we are really excited about that. And so that'll be a 40-acre area with that, and then the rest of the facility area will be grazed by sheep. We've been really working on our sheep grazing management plan for all of our projects in New York State. So I'll try to go through these last ones relatively quickly. A quick timeline on the project. So like I said, hope to submit the permit early next year. Won't go to construction until 2027 or so there will not be much, physically that folks see out there on the parcels, except for continued agriculture, the same as it has been for the last few years. Really quickly, just on the New York State Article 8 former 94C siting process, I think the town is relatively familiar with some of the other projects that have been proposed, but we will work with the town. This is not a process where AES thinks that we can just go through the state and everything is going to be fine. We're going to be working with the town, going up to the permit process, as well as after we're already permitted, if we want to go to construction, there's plenty of engagement with the towns on all of our compliance plans and operations and maintenance, as well as building permits, road agreements, things like that. So a little bit about the economic benefits. We haven't gotten too far down this road. I spoke with, the head of the IDA here in Tompkins County, and, they're not really interested in talking about these types of agreements until a little bit later on down the road. So haven't kicked off anything formally, but happy to talk with the towns at any time about host community benefit agreements. We've done these with a few different towns throughout the state, so that can happen now, it can happen next year, it can happen in 2026. Really, however the town wants to engage on that is something we're open to. A part of this is also the $500 per megawatt bill credit that gets distributed amongst ratepayers here in the town. So that is deducted from folks' utility bills directly by the utility. Like I said, just the continued agriculture on the project is really something that stands out for this one. And so just a little bit on the next steps. We'll be consulting with towns and agency heads on different types of impacts that the project may or may not have. So there's a short list there: land use, visual, cultural resources, transportation. Lansing as an MS4 community is something we're aware of, so we'll be planning to submit our SWIP to the town and getting the town engineers buy-in for that. Usually that's later on in the process, for the pre-construction process, and not something that gets submitted with the permit. The SWIP that we'll do here in the next few months is sort of as a part of a 30% design.
Jack, can you explain to the rest of the crowd what an MS4 is and what a SWIP is?
Sure. So an MS4 community is a specific type of civil engineering infrastructure design where I always forget what it is, but it's multiple sewer, stormwater combination systems. So essentially certain communities who are basically delegated to be more responsible for their civil stormwater. Typically, the New York State DEC in most communities throughout the state delegates a SWIP, which is basically your stormwater permit, and protects clean water and wetlands and things like that, water resources. So anytime you use disturbance of land, and you might cause erosion or stormwater runoff or things like that, you need a SWIP in place. And typically that's just a submittal to the state. In an MS4 community, the town engineer has to sign off on that. So it's just a little bit more of an onerous process for the town, and then they have the stake in being able to look at the actual plans and have approval authority on the SWIP itself, which governs the civil construction of the project. It also helps to protect soils and things like that, farmland infrastructure as well. Feel free to, I can answer any questions on that. Next up, we would do some agency meetings, where we talk about sort of the procedural aspects of the project, talk about local zoning laws, things like that. We'll have an open house on October 2nd, just at the community center across the way there, and that'll be from 5 to 7. We'll have refreshments and things like that for folks, and we'll have basically about 15 to 20 poster boards where folks can come in, take a look at the boards, ask questions to our professional experts. And I'll say that it's not just me, I'm kind of the point person for the project, but we'll have a full team of permitting folks, engineering folks, pretty much you name it, high voltage engineers, real estate folks. So they'll all be there to answer any questions that folks might have. And then just finally, really quickly on our AES Social Impact Program. So AES is a developer, owner, operator of these projects, which is a little different than a lot of developers who will develop a project and sell it. AES is somebody who will actually operate the project and be here in the community for the next 30 years. So as part of that, we look to engage and provide benefits where the town might see them being needed. So this can be typically it's $10,000 to $20,000 per year towards somewhere where the town sees it. So we've done on other projects in the North Country, a lot of times we're helping out with emergency responders, fire departments, getting new equipment for them. We help to do some repairs at a local railway museum, so things like that. And there's sort of these focus pillars that we look at. So if anybody in the community has suggestions, somewhere you'd like to see a positive impact, you can send it to you get a hold of somebody at AES, and then eventually we can try to track down if it kind of matches with the the goals of the social impact program, and we can, hopefully make a donation that will help folks out a little bit. So that's it, and happy to answer any questions.
I have one. So you're having this research that you're doing for, what is it?
Agrivoltaics.
Agrivoltaics. Sorry, I was just struggling with the word. Anyway, we have several solar projects already in process in Lansing. How much information do you have out of that, or is that it's something that will be developed? Because those sorts of best practices might be really helpful for the projects that are going on now.
Right. So we have kind of our, what we call, almost like a laboratory design. We've got the design that we want to create, but we still need to test, how it's going to work. So we think we have a good idea of the variables in play, but it's going to be until we can get it built in 2028 or so and have it operational that we can really tell, other folks what the best practices are. So I think, there's a lot of work being done, not just here throughout the country on exactly this. So as long as those developers are paying, close attention to what other folks are doing, AES included, I think they can, benefit from the information that's just kind of being shared, hopefully by the time they get their designs constructed.
Yeah, I think some of them may be going in sooner than that. And
Right.
I guess my concern is that a lot of community members have raised concerns about solar going in over prime farmland, which
Yeah.
is what is happening here, because it provides a benefit to the owner of the land to help maintain their properties and sometimes keep the family farms going. So it would be really nice to be able to do more with it, and not to take that prime farmland out of use.
Right.
But I'm afraid I think some of these projects will get built before you're even in operation yet.
I think that's probably right. Some of them might take longer than you might expect. I think we've been fortunate to have enough experience with, kind of the siting process and utility process where we think we can move this one relatively quickly. But yeah, I think unfortunately you're probably right that they have their designs already, kind of set, and that's probably what they'll move forward with, as opposed to trying to take a look at what we did and then go back and try to change their designs.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for answering the question.
Of course.
I have a question about one portion of the map. I think the southeast section was used as the fly ash dump for years and years, and maybe it was the previous owners, or the previous people who ran the thing. So is that section not going to have panels because they're trying not to disturb it, or is there something else about that?
Correct, you're 100% correct. So the southeast portion there, you can see it's outlined in yellow, but there's no blue panels because, so basically there was a nice egg, pretty much coal ash dump there back in the 70s, and, we were really hopeful to put panels there to understand it, but we went back and we just could not find any information about what actually happened there. We searched the records, we did our environmental, ESAs and things like that, and there's just not enough info for us to be able to confidently say what is kind of going on there. I think, we hope that it might be a future kind of addition to the project when we can get there, but that's essentially why that whole area is avoided, just because of the lack of information that we have there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks.
One other question. Are you planning on installing panels that will move and rotate, or are they going to be, okay?
Yep, good question. Yep, so these would all be tracker panels. We do have one small section in the agrivoltaic research facility that is fixed tilt, so those are the ones that, they don't rotate, they're just facing southwards. Right now, we also have proposed vertical panels as part of the agrivoltaic research facility. So those are panels that will, they're basically like a fence. And so those are very unique as well on a project like this. So also will just help to understand, what the production capacity is of those and how that can work with agriculture, not take up as much land, but still get, energy generation potential out of it. So yeah, most of it is tracker. I'd say, 95%, 99%. Then there are two unique areas that are different types of panel.
And I know this is a little bit more a question from the planning board you're likely to get, but With the tracking panels, have you made any, for people who are living nearby, we had some complaints with a previous solar project where the noise from the rotation was really adversely affected the local residents.
Right.
Have you looked into that?
Yeah, so we do noise studies, we'll go out and we do ambient noise, they'll go out and basically study the ambient noise that's generated, with just farming in the current situation, and then we'll model the noise generated from the tracker as well as the inverters, which typically the inverters are the ones that are making a little bit more noise than the tracker. And so we'll basically study all that, and they study the combined, if you have the tracker going and the inverter, it might be louder, so they'll study that and they'll make sure that we're set back, that we're not impacting anybody with a noise condition.
So, are you allowed to take questions from the audience?
I'm sorry.
There's a gentleman who had his hand up in the audience.
Oh, I didn't
Are we
see him.
allowed to-
Oh, because he's behind him.
Question on the project area highlighted in yellow.
Sir, can you go up to the mic so that people in the audience can hear? They're being televised.
The yellow section here, project area yellow on Milligan Station Road, what is the plan with that? Just as project area.
Yep, so the project area is essentially the area that we have, site control of, that we can take a look at the site panel. So we'll take that, and then from there, after we do all our studies, we'll basically narrow out places that can't be built. So you'll see on that station, on Milligan Station, there's a lot of area that is not in blue panels, and that's because most of the topography that it gets pretty steep as you get closer to the lake to the west
I
there.
guess, is there a chance you could put panels on the thin parcel?
Not really, just because there's streams there and it would require.
My property touches them, that's why.
Yeah, no, you're good. But yeah, no, we're submitting this, we plan to submit this permit soon, so this, the project will look pretty similar to this when it's finally, constructed.
Anybody else?
And you're not going to fence off that whole area down by the lake, you're just fencing off the areas where the panels actually are?
Correct.
So it'll remain untouched down the way. It's going to stay as currently is.
Well, so we have just a lease on that. We don't own that parcel, so it's private property. It's owned by a different company. They have certain development plans themselves, so we work with them, but I couldn't say for sure what they would do with that property.
Well, when you say you have it circled, that you have site control over it, what does that mean?
So that means that we have basically the option to lease a certain amount of it. So it's a 400-acre parcel. We have the options, should we choose to exercise it, to lease about 250 acres of that. And so, that can be narrower. We're currently showing about 150 acres of that we would actually lease. So yeah, out of the whole 400-acre parcel, we would only exercise our option on about 150 acre limit. Yep.
Anybody else? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. In case people are wondering why I keep asking people to come to the mic, these are all being televised, and people at home can't hear unless you're speaking into the mic, so. Patrick Jordan for his presentation of the 2023 audit.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Happy to be here in September. We're getting back on the track, on the timeline, as we were at one point. I'm here to talk about the 2023 audit report that we did. The results are very positive. Main focus is the financial accuracy of the fund financial statements, which we are able to render an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. We do have, that's including adjustments that we had to make. We did have adjustments, but nothing real significant, I wouldn't say. I could provide all of the adjustments in a more organized manner than they exist right now. I'll have to sort out some. As I said, we focus on the fund financial statements. There is a higher level conversion from the funds into the government-wide, where it goes from the short-term approach. The annual report that you supply to the state is really a 12-month look or a perspective, but then it has to be converted into government-wide, which is a full accrual, which brings in the fixed assets, capital assets, long-term debt, including retirement system obligations and health, post-employment health insurance obligations, which is a big number for all governments. You really don't do much with those long-term assets. Even though we say we audit them, we do a lot of the work in the calculations and all, based on information provided by various sources such as actuaries or at the state level, or that you hire for the OPEB, the post-employment benefit obligation. So as I said, the main focus is on the fund financial statements. We also review certain laws and regulations, make sure you're in compliance there. About a half dozen years ago or so, it was recommended that you incorporate this full, government-wide approach. It was really recommended from your bond counsel to kind of be in line with all other governments that filed this under this approach. Most towns don't have an audit requirement. So the documents we sent out, I think, a week ago, and then dropped off final copies, I think Friday, with some changes which I recapped in an email. We're all set on our side now. No further changes, just a matter of your acceptance. It is still in draft form, and we'll send a management representation letter, which you send back to us, and explaining that you've given us all the information regarding commitments, contingencies, things like that, any concerns, legal concerns. And we are required to look at subsequent events through the date of the issuance of the report, including board minutes, any debt that you may have issued after year end, that sort of thing, and include those in our report. We have the large audit report that, the full audit report with the opinions. There's an opinion on the basic financial statements, including the supplementary information. There's an opinion in there for your requirement for us to perform the audit in accordance with government auditing standards. Those two, again, those opinions are unmodified or clean if they're the standard language that you want to have. Excuse me. I guess, want to just take a quick look at the executive summary. If you have provided it, sorry, I didn't realize we were able to project. Be prepared to do that next time, but the executive summary really brings together all of the reports, the opinions that we issued, again, all very positive. It also gives you a condensed financial look over a 5-year period with all the funds. So just starting with page 2 of the summary, I'll just really recap what I said. The items there are the main audit report, and supplementary information, unmodified or clean opinion. You see that language in a couple of places. That's what you want to have, unmodified opinion. There's a management comment letter that we provided, which we didn't have any concerns that we had to note in that letter. There's a required communication with those charged with governance. That's really the last document, other than the justice audit, which we're wrapping up. That's just a half a page boilerplate language, and everything was fine in that area also. So there, on page 3, the required communication talks about qualitative aspects, and that really covers a few things. Policies, all of the policies are explained in note 1 to the financial statements. Whether there are any new standards that you had to adopt, and the Governmental Accounting Standards Board continues to put more new standards out there. And so we say that you've adopted a lot of those standards along the way in the last few years, but no major changes to the funds. Most of those relate to the government-wide, and nothing significant in the last few years. And some upcoming we're still evaluating. Again, it shouldn't change things too much. That talks about where to find the policies, estimates, and again, that's mainly related to those long-term assets and liabilities, along with specific disclosures to point your attention to. Again, it's the same area as the longer-term ERS system liabilities and pension obligation and the OPEB obligation. The rest of the letter, the required communication, is just communication about the audit process, any difficulties encountered performing the audit, corrected, uncorrected misstatements, disagreements with management. Again, no difficulties encountered performing the audit. We're still working through better way to, I guess, coordinate the pre-audit, pre-field work and the actual on-site work, to kind of streamline that a little bit better, just make it more efficient, and hopefully continue to back up this delivery date before September. The process itself was fine. We did have some adjusting entries, which I talked about. That's pretty much the remainder of that letter is working through the audit. We were able to find all the documentation that we needed. The rest of the executive summary just shows you fund by fund, the assets, the liabilities, fund balance, revenues and expenses. Not going to get into too much of that in detail. It's kind of been asked in most cases to keep it brief and just touch on the highlights, which I think I've covered. I will say that you have some flexibility there. The general, so it's general fund townwide, general fund outside village, highway fund townwide and highway fund outside village kind of go hand in hand. That you have flexibility between them. Your general fund townwide fund balance dropped down a bit, but the outside village is healthy, so you have flexibility to reallocate some things such as sales tax or property tax. Same with the outside village. Overall, if you look at all the funds, your policy is about 25% fund balance, calculated on the budget, the estimated or annual expenditures. And with the exception of the general fund town-wide, all of those are at that level or higher, and you can certainly make up the difference in that general fund with that flexibility. So other than that, again, we're just go through the formal, wrapping up all the administrative items and get you that letter to finalize everything and very soon in the near future. But I want to give you a chance to ask anything before we kind of wrap up this presentation. We'll get into more details about the audit process or the documents.
Anybody have anything?
I just appreciate getting this in September. It's really helpful, especially to start the budget process now that this year wrapped up.
Yeah, any later, even September's pushing, it's a little bit stale, it's 9 months past your close.
Yeah, I do want to thank you. I mean, you were working very closely with Mary Ellen and Jen, and they did a great job, I think, of getting things to you in a timely fashion, and I think it's working very well. Like Joe said, we do appreciate the September presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your thoroughness, and thank you also to our staff for maintaining all the documentation that the auditors needed.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Which were the next steps?
All right. Okay. Thank you, Patrick.
Will we approve this next month, or how does that, what's our process?
Yes. Yeah. I don't have a chance to look at it, and we'll approve it at the next one. Okay. The 2025 tentative budget. All right.
I'm going to formally present the tentative 2025 town Lansing budget to everyone on the town board. I'm going to hand the copies out for that. And the supervisor's office will email the budget to the town board probably tomorrow.
Oh, you punched the holes, thank you.
I didn't do that, but somebody else did that.
Thank you, Abby.
You're welcome. And I was just going to go over, written down the dates when we typically do the next steps. So the meeting next weekend, the 25th, town board will review, modify, and put changes in writing based on what you received tonight. And based on asking questions, you can ask questions obviously ahead of time to anybody. Then the town board meeting on October 16th, have a resolution to approve the changes, and then the tentative budget will move to the preliminary budget. Then the town board meeting on November 6th, There'll be a budget public hearing and a final budget approval resolution.
I did want to remind the board too, if you've got your talk of the town, that has a very good description of the process and the timing of it as well, so you might want to pay attention to that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Motions and resolutions. We have a motion accepting the Park Foundation grant for a trails plan.
I'll move it.
Second.
This is really exciting. We've got a Park Foundation for $50,000 to do a comprehensive study of trails in the town.
And it's over a 2-year period.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
We have a resolution requesting reduction, I'm sorry, my eyes, not a reduction of speed limit on Buck Road.
I'll move that.
Second.
Any discussion on this one?
Did we get a letter asking for this? I'm just kind of curious where this came from.
We received a petition.
We received a petition. Okay.
Usually, once the petitions come to my office,
Okay.
and then from there, we do the resolution for the board to decide if you're in support of it or not. And then if you're in support of it, then my office does the paperwork, sends it to the county, then the county sends it to the state, and then we wait a while until we hear from them.
Doesn't Mike be waiting on this too?
No,
Yeah? Okay.
he has no say.
Does the state have to approve it,
Yes,
even though it's a town highway?
yes.
That's right.
Huh, okay.
So can we see the petition? I was just kind of curious. We have property on that road and never heard of it. So,
On Buck Road?
yep.
Oh,
My parents have property.
oh, I didn't hear
A
that
huge
part.
piece of property
Yeah.
on that part of Buck Road. I'm just,
Yeah, it's in our office.
okay.
Yeah.
I was just kind of curious for some hearing of it. Okay.
Judy Drake,
Aye.
Lori Hemmings,
Aye.
Christine Monte,
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore, Ruth Ross.
Aye. And next, we have a resolution of state interest in the future portion of the railroad right-of-way that runs through the town of Lansing in the event of decommissioning by Norfolk Southern.
I'll move it.
Second?
Lori, is that you?
Yes.
Starting with the voices.
I am. It's getting better.
So, and I just want to clarify that this isn't binding us in any way, it's not binding the railroad, it's just kind of a, hey, we're interested, let us know. Okay.
Yes, it's just a statement to say, you know, I mean, this could be 10, 15 years down the road, we don't know when it's going to happen. It's just like we did with Bell Station, just stating our interest in it so that when the time comes, we will have, you know, they will acknowledge that we have voiced our interest in it.
It'll slow the process down in the future, should it come up for sale, so that the community can talk about the best way to proceed.
We can't hear you back here with your
Okay, I'm sorry. What it does is it will slow the process down should this property come up for sale, so that the whole community, including the residents, can talk about how to proceed instead of it going up for auction one night and nobody has any way to slow that down and discuss how that should happen.
Is the town board...
Tom, can you come up to the mic so people at home can hear you?
I've asked this question before. Has there been any further discussion between the town board and the railroad or any official government body? So this is just a resolution, again, no contact with the railroad, no contact with the state of New York or the federal government?
Correct.
Okay.
sort of along the same lines as what we did with Bell Station. We included it in the comprehensive plan. We made, I think the county had some, what was it?
They designated a unique natural area.
Yeah. So it's just setting the stage so we can protect the area if and when it does happen.
Judy True,
Aye.
Lauren Heathers,
Aye.
Christine Mountain,
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore, Luke Ross,
Aye. Resolution approving audit and budget modifications and the supervisor's report.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
I would just like to encourage some of the other board members to start doing the supervisor's report. I know I'm the one that's been doing it. And I think it's important that other people look at each of these bank balances from time to time, just so that there's other eyes on it other than just mine.
So anytime you guys are planning to come in to approve the vouchers, let me know, and I'll plan to be there and show you how to do that. It's very simple, actually.
Okay.
Okay.
Just encouraging others. And it doesn't just have to be one board member. Anybody can audit these things anytime. So you can go back and do August, or you can go back and do July's, and look them over. You know, all the bank statements are in the same booklets. It's just good to have everybody who's doing it a couple of times just to see what's happening. Just different eyes see different things.
So did anybody have any questions on the modifications? At this point, none of them are coming out of fund balance, correct, Mary Ellen? They're all just being
Correct.
reclassed between the fund, within the fund.
Judy True,
Aye.
Lauren Heathers,
Aye.
Christine Mountain,
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore, Luke Ross,
Aye. Okay, board member reports. Judy, did you want to, yours is in the packet, but did you have anything you wanted to add?
No. Unless there's any questions.
The rest of ours are on the table back there because we didn't get time to go in the packet, but they will be in the minutes. We're ready for work session, and I think, I would like to reverse these A and B on here because I'd like to give, is there someone here to present about this water district?
Yeah, that's...
Okay. This is on the last page of your packet.
I'm going to be putting trying to put residents on Old Orchard Road, and I was informed that I need to get approval for out-of-district water use. So I included a map of the proposed location, this last sheet. And what you'll see is that there's already currently several water lines that are running down Old Orchard Road, highlighted in blue on that map. And the water meter is the red dot near Milliken Station. And then there's already a curb box, that's the blue dot on my property. And I just plan on tying into that water line that exists there and taking that to the residents. So everything is already on the property and in place.
Okay. Did I catch it? Are you Scott?
Scott,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, sorry.
I didn't know if you,
Yeah.
I'm hard of hearing.
This is my first meeting, so I don't...
That's okay. You're good. You're good. Well, Scott, what we normally do in this situation is the board doesn't make a decision tonight, but we will refer it to, we have a water and sewer working group that reviews these things, and then they will refer back to the town board of what we want to do. So just wanted to let you know that. Okay? So we will, as a board, assign that to the water and sewer working group. That's okay? All right?
Yep.
I'm just wondering,
go ahead.
I'm just wondering if we can have a process which doesn't require someone to come to a board meeting to just hear us send it to.
I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to waste your time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I want to streamline this as much as we can, I don't know when you turned this in, but you could have turned this in.
Well, thank you, because you took it quickly. So I turned it in a few days ago, and they said I was going to get the October. I said, you squeezed me in, and they did, so thank you for squeezing me in.
Yeah, but, if you turned it in 3 weeks ago, you still have to wait till today.
Yeah, right.
And, if we could just authorize the supervisor to send these things to the sewer group, I think it would speed things up. I don't think it would take anything away from this board's decision-making process, but it would save you time, both coming here and you can do it the day it arrives as opposed to waiting a week.
Yeah, because this was a new one for me. I didn't realize I had to get even, I need this for the permit apparently, so.
Yeah, I understand that, and you're doing everything right. I'm just saying, can we change our process so that it's faster for this person and, well, not for you, but for the next person?
Yeah.
Because we always send these to the sewer group, and so why do we have to come here and do this at this point?
Can I ask who the sewer group is?
I don't know.
Is it Bolton Point? or-
No,
it's somebody.
It's an internal town committee, with engineers and planners and such, who look it over, decide whether or not you fit the plans that we would have for typical water system. And they may tell you to adjust it slightly, probably not in this case, but in other cases. And then they make a recommendation to this board, and then this board decides whether or not to approve it or not. But it does so with, our officials looking at it and giving us recommendations and specific reasons for those recommendations.
So I will need an approval from the board then in order to give that to Bolton Point, is that correct?
Yes.
Right.
But we don't know enough about it yet to be able to.
I mean, normally how long will this take? Is this like?
I don't know.
I haven't been involved in one of those in the past, so I can't.
Mikey, I think is on.
So the water and sewer, well, it's not, it's water and sewer and stormwater committee meets once a month at the board's leisure, right? Number one, you're going to need better map.
Okay.
It's just, you know, distances, location, things like that.
Okay.
But, maybe I would suggest that the board charge the water and sewer.
Well, I don't know, I mean, I know where the water line is in the box, but I don't know where the rest of the line's at.
So an engineer, right, you're going to hire an engineer, they're going to put something together.
Okay.
That's just going to save you time from it being sent to the committee, and then the committee kicking it back saying, there's just lines here we don't know, right? Submit that into Debbie, and I'm sure that will get to where it needs to go. Okay. But I would suggest maybe the board charge or ask the water and sewer stormwater committee to look at the process. Okay.
Do we need a resolution for that?
I think we can just all.
Okay.
You're just going to pass it along to the committee.
We passed this along already, and what you're asking is pass along, ask the group to also say, can we streamline this process a little bit? I think that would be easy for everybody involved.
Well, I'm fine with that, honestly. I think that would be great, but there are instructions here of how we're doing it now, so they need to be gone over and not just kind of willy-nilly say we're going to do this and maybe forget some steps that have to happen.
I think that's what Mike is saying, is the committee will now go over that set of instructions.
Well, I'm not part of that committee, but since my office is very involved in this, which we don't have to be, but at the moment we are, so either we need to be involved in that discussion or just move us out. Yeah, competitively, I don't really care, but.
We can work on that.
Yeah. And according to this, applicant, once the board, like tonight has, I guess, decided to refer it to the water group, the applicant, you then need to file construction diagrams and plans together with any supplemental information that comes back to our office. And then we give everything to the town board, the committee, whatever, to do the preliminary review, and then the committee, the water committee, does their part of it. So we do need, like Mike said, there's, better that, and it says on here, final construction diagrams and plans.
It'll show exactly where the pipe goes, it'll say what kind of pipe, what kind of hookups, all that kind of stuff. Is there someone you can talk to if he's got more questions of exactly what's needed?
Yeah.
Like who to hire?
Just,
Is there a name and a number?
you can call, just call the highway department, I'll see if I can walk you through something.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Okay. Now, back to the discussion on the town hall HVAC system. We're back to the same document that we've been working with from the Tompkins County Business Energy Advisors with the options for the town hall. And I'd like to open this up for discussion. So what we need to do, though, is in this, starting on page 77 of our packet, which is page 10 of the report, we have that they have numbered our options. So, yeah.
Before we go through the options, I know that there is, you said there's some money available. We only got $10,000 in terms of a grant for it, and we have obligations to fix the roofs on the community center and the school building.
Those are
Right.
discussions for the budget, but yes, you're
Okay.
correct.
So the question, I guess, what I was trying to do is, assuming we know those figures, how much is left? Because that would really help me decide what
Okay,
we're
what
doing
I-
here.
no,
And I'm
finish.
sorry if I'm
No,
not,
that's okay. What I was
if I'm
going to say,
derailing
though,
this. but-
is when we make the decision, we'll look at each of these options and we'll decide which of these number of options we want to go with. But I also wanted to add, so you've set the segue for this next comment I was going to make, was that the numbers in here are not necessarily what is, it's set in stone. These are not estimates from the contractors. I know Pat has been involved, he got an estimate from...
Well, on that, ballpark figure, they can probably feed more to all of this than I can. So there's a broad stroke figure thrown out for what ground source would be. I do have a meeting with Helco, another company, tomorrow.
Oh, Pat, I'm sorry, can you come up, Pat, I'm sorry, can you come to the mic?
Yeah.
So our viewing audience can...
Should they come up too? I'm sorry? Should they come up too? Because
Yeah, if they're going to talk.
Would you guys like to
Yeah, if they're
step to
gonna
the
talk.
mic as well?
I didn't know they-
You guys can do a quartet.
So what I received after some discussion last week was an email which I shared with them and I shared with Ruth. I don't know if she shared it with the rest of the board. For ground source, what it would roughly be depending on what incentives we get. So that's sort of where we're at right now. And like I said, I'm meeting with Helco tomorrow to discuss options and maybe they'll give me some broad stroke of what it might cost, but it's not an estimate by any means, so I don't want you to call it that.
Okay.
Yeah, the one thing that I'll say to that is the NPA funding, which is the non-pipes alternatives funding. You don't have to do anything to get that, so there's no reason that you wouldn't. Any building that's in the town of Lansing is eligible for that incentive. So the $39,000 that they've estimated, which would still need to be finalized, there's no reason that you wouldn't receive that.
So how much was that, I'm sorry?
$39,000.
Okay, and that would be in addition to the 10 that we've already been awarded?
Yeah, so you, based on this, you're looking at about $65,000 in guaranteed, right? Obviously, everybody's got a bit of an asterisk, but looking at about $65,000 in guaranteed incentives between non-pipes at $39,000, Clean Heat, which is a New York State program, which runs about $15K based on the size of the system. And then we have definitely the $10K that the town is eligible for through the Clean Energy Communities program, right? So for, again, we're looking at almost certainly in the neighborhood of 65 for just off either cost, either project. The only incentive that the ground source qualifies for, that the air source doesn't, is the 30% IRA direct pay. That's 30% of the total project cost paid back to the town. It does take a little bit to come through. And so of course that's a little bit harder to estimate because we don't have that final project cost. The idea is that it brings the final cost to parity, but we wouldn't necessarily know until we got the final cost of the ground source system. And then of course we are anticipating, and I can't speak to when that will come, but we are anticipating additional funding through the Clean Energy Communities Program, which can be spent on either program, or on either project. So again, whichever choice you make, that funding can be applied if and when we become eligible for it, which I'm hoping is soon.
Okay.
But, you know.
Okay, all right. And I do want to comment that we also have $100,000 in reserve. We don't want to spend all of that necessarily, but we did put in the 2025 budget, we're guessing about 60,000. Is that, did I get that right? It was 60 for that and leaving 30, or spending 30 and leaving 60?
I didn't know that much. I'd have to look and see.
Okay, but anyway, but we do have reserves, the repair reserves, which is what that's out there for.
But just to be clear, the repair reserves are there for any kind of repair, whether it's the roof or this or
Right.
whatever it might be. So I just want to make sure that people understand that money that's in there, if we promised it, part of it to the roof or part of it to something else, that's going to take away from this.
Right.
Yeah, it's not there just for this building.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like we have a good chunk of it will be covered through grants and...
Yeah, that's amazing.
It is
I
amazing.
mean, obviously, there will probably still be an additional amount, but we've accounted for that in the budget as well, which we can talk about. How much, I don't remember how much we put in there for that.
I don't remember offhand, there's too many numbers in my head. I don't want to guess.
Yeah.
If you're talking about a $100,000 system, all that money covers it. 30% of 100,000, what's 65, you know, it's roughly covering 100,000.
Yeah.
Basically, what the board needs to decide is what type of system, and let's get it out to bid, because we need that to move to the next step.
Right.
We can't do anything unless it goes out to bid.
Right. So then I think that's what, the discussion has to be tonight, is let's decide what we want. If it turns out that's not going to be doable, we can always come back to the drawing board, but I'd rather not do that. But, so just trying to decide what we want to do.
Well, let me ask Pat a quick question. Do you want us to pick this one, or do you want us to pick this one with that one as a backup? Which would be easier for you and give you more flexibility to move forward. Because if we get back, nobody's willing to do the project as described here, or,
It's a lot of pressure, Joe, for a Parks and Rec.
I'm asking what's easier for you, so that we can move forward, giving you as much as we can.
My opinion, ground source, but that's my opinion.
That's where I'm leaning to.
It's same here. And that's where we get the most benefit in terms of grants and stuff too, so.
So I'll move that we put out bids for, what would be item 2C?
I mean, you also don't have to follow what's in that you could just say
Ground source.
ground, you don't have to follow that.
Right.
And I'd like the hot water tied in with this as well. And I assume the 30% would cover the hot water if it's part of this system?
Yes.
Okay. So heat, hot water, AC, ground source. That's what I'm moving.
I tend to agree with Joe, but I'd like to know if any other board members or anyone else has an opinion in favor of air source, not because I don't like it, but just because I'm interested in having a discussion.
I have no input.
The only thing with air source for this particular building is you're changing the infrastructure, right? So you already have in-floor radiant heat. With ground source, you're reusing that system that really hasn't malfunctioned. The controls have malfunctioned greatly, but this, as far as, what's in the floor has not malfunctioned.
That's a good, compelling argument.
So the ground source, go ahead, talk. The ground source allows us to use what we already have.
Correct. You would hook up to the existing. There might be some modifications from what I've talked to contractors about, slight modifications of manifolds and things downstairs, but you would still use the pipes that are in the concrete.
they'll replace those controls that aren't working as well?
That's what I was going to ask.
That's all gonna be, have to be part of the bid package.
Yes.
That-
It has to be, because we
Yeah.
have to stop having one side too hot and one side too cold, and that'd be a permanent situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was my next question, is are the controls going to be fixed?
That's-
That's part of it.
I would
Okay.
assume Guy's probably gonna
All
write
right.
the bid, so that's gonna have to be added in there, and some sort of language, you know, that's for
Okay.
Guy to write,
All
I
right.
guess.
Okay.
And in terms of some of these letter items on here, like all the fours, 4A, B, and C, those are, as you said, they don't, they're already going to be covered as part of the ground source. So the ground source is basically going to cover all the ancillary,
Heat, hot water, and
Things like that.
AC.
Yes.
okay.
It wouldn't necessarily,
Agreed, I mean, you may have to change some things, don't, I mean.
I understand that the qualifications, I want hot water, AC, and heat, and I want it so that both sides of the building have some control over their, themselves, so that you don't have one side roasting.
Yeah, that's all controls.
All right, okay.
And then-
That was my concern.
one of the other items in here was replacing the lighting with LED lighting. And that's, would we include that as part of this package, or would we do that separately?
That's a separate thing, but we
Okay.
are already planning
To do
to
that.
replace, which lighting district is it?
Lake Watch.
Lake Watch it's already on the agenda for next year to do that.
Okay.
And
But that, what's in that report is for.
Just this building.
particular
Just this building.
yeah,
That's
but
what I was
aren't
asking
we
about.
doing that as we go along, as we replace bulbs?
We try to, yes.
Okay.
What's the thing about repair, replace ERV system? Do we not need that if we get the ground source, or?
That will have to be repaired as well as part of the air system within the building.
Okay. So you can-
Circulates fresh air back into the building, basically.
And that would be a repair that you would have to make, basically, no matter what, when you go.
Yeah.
That's part of the system that would need to be addressed.
So you can just add that to the bid or whatever?
Yes.
Okay.
So 2C and 3, we will be doing.
Yep.
What would you be doing? I just wanted to get my notes right. 2C,
2C, which is replace AC and boiler with ground source heat pump.
the 112,000.
Well, those are,
I'm just,
Yeah,
that's it.
that one.
That's the one.
We don't know yet.
but that's a ballpark something, somewhere, other than falling from the sky. anyway.
Yep.
And then 3 right below what we need to do for the
Right.
5,000.
Yep.
And we will want to make sure to include as the part of the bid about the water and the controls.
Yeah, replace the
controls.
control.
Functionality, so just make sure that that is in there.
I hear the staff's not happy with them the way they are.
That's correct, that's correct, yeah. But is that on here somewhere, a replace control system, so is that the ECM1?
ECM 1,
Oh, that's on,
ECM 2C, ECM 3.
You guys have bids for these?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
That'd be helpful.
Okay.
All right.
For the pipes replacement project, aren't there only a couple of vendors that are authorized to do this kind of work?
Yes, there are
Qualify.
3 contractors who qualify for the
Well,
incentive program.
that's perfect, because we need 3.
Perfect. Works out well.
And of those 3, after tomorrow, I'll have contact, or been in contact with 2 of them, so.
Okay.
So what's our next step? So we,
could we just step back 1 second to sort of the beginning, because I just want to get this in my notes. So if I understood this correctly, that you're thinking we have guaranteed incentives of 65,000?
Guaranteed with, of course, the asterisk of things happen, but yes.
Yeah. And then, and we've already received a 10,000 grant.
That's rolled into it.
That's part of it, that's
Yeah.
what I needed to know. Okay, so it's 65,000 that you're working with. Okay.
What about
And-
1/3 from the feds or state?
IRA.
Yes, so the direct pay through the Inflation Reduction Act is going to make the town eligible for 30% of the project cost. for ground source, not for air source. I'm learning what that looks like, so it will be 30% of the project cost. I don't know if that's pre-incentive, post-incentive. I don't know how non-pipes will interact with that. And then you have to file your taxes, so that could take some time to get back from the IRS. So it's in there, but based on what I have seen, it's kind of hard to predict exactly, like budget for it, exactly what it's going to be, but it will be in there.
The town doesn't file taxes.
Yep. And so I'm attending a series of trainings about how to assist towns get set up with that. Most of the recommendations I've got so far are I should have been a lawyer or a tax accountant. So that it'll end up being a bit of a process, but it's something I'm trying to figure out how to do so that I can then support you all in filing for it. You don't file for it until after the project is complete anyways, so that's going to come a year plus.
Right.
So
So we'll pay it out of the town's pocket first, and then we'll get reimbursed for it if we can manage to jump through all the hoops that are required to do so. Thank you so much for your help.
Okay. All right, so I guess our next step is to get the quotes and,
put it up to bid.
yeah.
Great.
So I think they should come back to us next week if there's any clarifications that need to be, parts we forgot to say or things that weren't clear. We can clear it up next week.
Do you want me to reach out to Guy to say, hey, Guy, write this bid package as I was directed to by the town board, or would you like to do that?
I don't write big packages.
No, I mean, would you like to reach out to Guy or have me do it?
Do you have time? That's a silly question.
No, I don't, but.
And I'm sorry, does that come back to us to review before it goes out to bid?
Yes, I would assume the town board could review it before it actually goes
Okay,
out
so-
and was made public.
The bid, Guy will write the resolution authorizing the bid to go out and you'd see the bid package.
And I'm assuming he's not gonna have it in time for you to do that next week. It'll probably be next
He's on
month.
vacation.
He's on,
Right.
yeah. So he's writing the bid specs?
With probably some help and information, typically,
Okay.
department heads or employees don't write bid packages. It's typically the town attorney that writes.
An engineer.
Or
I was gonna
engineer.
Yeah.
sometimes writes them.
Yeah, I think,
With an engineer.
I think
Hearing anybody.
he used them in a legal sense.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Guy writes the stuff and sometimes Dave Garrett writes it.
So-
They work together.
If Guy is on vacation, could Dave do this? Is he I mean, I assume he's probably
Well, it
in many
won't
ways
happen
more
by
qualified
next
than
week, if
Guy.
That's what you're really.
I
Well-
just might be questions by next week. So should we send it to Dave? I think that makes sense. And
Yeah.
have Dave talk with you guys to get details.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know who Dave is. but-
Dave's our.
Is our town engineer.
Terrific. Yeah,
He works for TD.
we'll check with Dave. Okay.
Okay, so who's calling Dave? Ruth or Pat?
We'll leave it up to Ruth, and then she'll figure it out from there. How's that?
I just don't want to leave everybody thinking someone else is doing
I
it.
know.
I'll do it.
Okay.
It's on here. Ruth, do.
In conjunction with Pat and Dave and Guy.
Right, exactly. Make sure Guy's on it, because he and Dave, I think, who's both working on this.
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense to have Dave writing the specs of what kind of things we need done.
Yeah. Guy's not an engineer.
Has Dave gotten this report?
I was going to say, Dave hasn't been involved in any of this so far, so that could be a little tricky.
I thought he was here when this report was
Yeah,
presented.
He's had some comments
Yeah.
on it.
Let's make sure he gets a copy of it, because
But I don't.
I mean, this is the third time we've looked at this report.
I know, but we never made any decisions.
No.
Finally made a decision tonight.
Yay.
so. Yes.
Thank you for all of your help in
Yes.
holding our hands and all of that. Do
Thank
you have
you.
bid specs you can give us?
Do you know what?
Do you have bid specs you can give us?
Right this second.
No, not
Well, so what I will end up doing is, because there are me's in every town in the state, and so I'll reach out and I'll be able to get a handful of like comparable
Yes.
bids, what other
Perfect.
towns are doing. Town Dryden.
Town of Dryden did it a number of years ago.
They did the ground source?
They did ground source, yes, they did.
Well, that's news to me.
Yeah.
So then I'll start with Dryden. Okay. I'll sort of work my way from there. But then, like, every town I think does it a little bit differently, so I don't know exactly what you would need to see in an official bid package, but I can pull together language that I've seen work other places, as well as help translate this into what you're actually asking for contractors to respond to. If this is the direct, so say it for the record, 2C, 3, 4A, and 1, I can make sure that those project components are represented in a bid and consult with Dave and the town attorney as needed. You know, I don't want to like step on toes or sort of write this for necessarily, but I've had it work in other towns or seen it work in other towns with my counterparts there, and so I can like draw from that and bring that to you.
I think the key is that you make sure that whatever we're asking for matches up with whatever the grants and stuff that we're applying for, so that those two align.
Yes, can do.
That's the most important part for you. Guy can make sure that the bid documents are right, Dave can make sure that the engineering is correct, but I want to make sure the grants and our bids match.
Yes.
I want to make this part clear too. When we do put this out to bid, there's only 3 contractors.
Yes, other than
Yeah.
we cannot get the 39,000.
Yes.
Otherwise, you don't get $39,000.
Okay.
So you could choose someone else, but it's going to cost you.
No, we know.
We'll know that when the bids come back, and hopefully one of those guys at least will be one of the bids.
And we hope that the bid package is written well enough that it doesn't exclude one of those 3 or those 3 completely. That's
Yeah.
also something that's happened in the past is packages have been written with certain, we'll say, insurance aspects or some other aspect that kind of puts other, puts contractors off to not even bid it.
Okay. All right. So how soon can you get us those sample documents? Like by next week? Or?
You said you had a meeting next week?
That's just our budget meeting, but yeah. No, we wouldn't go over it then, probably.
Realistically, yeah.
Then I can definitely get it to you before the month is out.
Put on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I can turn that around and probably by the end of next week, even though.
Okay,
we'll be able to look
that'd
at
be
the
great.
budget meeting.
I know we got to move this forward.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we could have bid documents, and you need them 1 week, 2 weeks before the meeting.
Yeah, but I'm not sure Dave and Guy can pull that all together.
Right. I don't know if they can either, but I want to give them every opportunity that we can.
In the past, when they've worked on bid documents, it hasn't.
Maybe move that back?
No,
Okay.
not typically.
Okay.
But, it'd be great if it does.
Okay.
But I do have one question, because you just spoke, sorry, I forgot your name, but.
Chris.
Chris, okay, cool. Chris, so when you went down the list, you just included 4A also? I didn't write that down before. So is that, when I went over it with the board, I said 2C, 3, and then 1, but now he's saying 4A. I just want to make sure that.
That's the water leader part.
So we need that one also?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you, Chris. Does anybody else have anything?
Just also realize that this is likely a year off now, again, so let's not forget to probably put in some money for repairs of what our current system is.
We've already put it in there. Yep. Okay.
Hopefully it holds together. Order another heating season.
I'm taking the prayer.
Yeah.
I'm taking the prayer. Get you
Okay.
March.
That'll work.
thank you, guys. We really appreciate you showing up at these meetings and setting us straight. We appreciate that.
Month after month.
Yep.
That's where, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on. That's also.
Yes.
There's a lot more done. So,
Okay, does anybody have any need for an executive session?
No, but I have a quick question.
Okay.
Can we get the preliminary or the tentative budget in this format?
Yeah, that's what she's going to send tomorrow.
That's what she's going to send tomorrow. Okay.
And I do want to say that you're going to see some errors in the printed budget because of the Williamson program had some bug in it.
Oh, Mary Ellen, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yep.
And I just wanted to know as well, because I can take the much of
Do that for you.
Well, what you're going to, I think what you're going to get from Mary Ellen tomorrow is an electronic version of this. You're going to get an electronic version of that, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute, and the spreadsheet, the actual Excel spreadsheet. So you can sort and do hide columns, do whatever you want to do with it. Okay? And on that point, refer to the Excel spreadsheet for the percentages of change and for the column that is labeled for the adopted 2024 budget, because we discovered today that very randomly, there's some bug in the program, the Williamson program, that took from the wrong field to fill in the 2024 budget of some accounts.
So what she's saying is the 25 is correct.
The 2025 budget column, all along, that's fine, that's all correct. And I think even most of the, no, I take that back, it's not either. But anyway, I talked to Williamson today, and the only thing we can do is go in and manually change the chart of accounts. But because we're doing that, I want to do it very thoughtfully and carefully, because that's the numbers that we draw from, and I don't want to inadvertently make a change manually that the program should have been doing. So, anyway, we found there's not a huge number of things like that, a huge number of accounts, but there are some. And the way you'll see it is, and I think one of the first ones on the first page is probably the justices' .1 account. You'll see that the 2024 budget is the same as the 2025 budget, and that's not correct.
So should we be looking at the modified 24 budget and not the adopted 24 budget?
Basically, let me see what you're looking at.
Yeah, because those numbers are different, so that's why I was wondering.
Yes, exactly. So the modified budget here, that's really, no, wait, hang on a second. Yes, that's really the 2024 number.
Okay.
This is the number, and not always, but this is the number that pulled from here for some reason.
Okay, so.
And what it affects is the change, the percentage of change.
Right.
Calculates it off of the adopted 24 budget, which is skewing those
But
percentages.
you're saying when we get the spreadsheet, we can pay attention to both?
Yeah,
Spreadsheet's
exactly.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay?
Since we're on this, can I ask a question? Where are we at with the changeover in the software?
We are looking at November 1st still.
Okay.
For that changeover, so yes. I had a call with Edmonds today, and we set up some meetings for the beginning of October to go over more business process reviews and things like that. I asked the department heads today, they have to do a speed test on their computers and things like that. Then because they'll all be able to have the software on their computers so they can see their employees and they can see their accounts and things like that. So we're getting closer and closer. Yep. But we are still on track for November 1st. And that's only for the accounting and payroll piece. There's inventory, there's fleet management, there's other parts of the program that would come in December and more that would come in January. But the main piece that we want to get to is that November 1st.
Are you going to use Williamson to do the state reporting next February?
Hopefully not. Hopefully
everything's in Edmonds, but we're going to have both programs. We're going to run them both for a while, just to make sure that we got recovered in the process. But I'm expecting that Edmonds will have better functionality and will be able to more easily, do the AFR and the end of the year and everything else. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, well, does anybody have anything else?
Do we have to talk about what Scott, what's his name, Scott Russell, sent about changes to codes?
Oh, his request.
Code laws. The state wants to change the code laws, and then he wants us to send them a letter
Something of support.
asking for them to not change certain things. Did you see his email?
Yeah, I'm scrolling down to read it again because I know what you're talking about and I forget the specifics. This fossil fuel,
Yeah, it was,
the fossil fuel requirement for homes. And I meant to look into this and did not get a chance to.
I think there's a deadline, September 24th, if we want to send a letter to the state.
I'm confused because I really can't imagine the state saying that in 1 year, everybody has to have electric everything. As Scott points out, the system can't handle it.
Yeah.
this came out to all code officials, so it just came down from the state. So.
And if it only just came out and we have to send back comments by September 24th, it's a quick turnaround, so.
I would support us sending something. I think it's very unrealistic.
Yeah.
Might be realistic in some of the bigger cities and stuff like that, but once you get out in a more rural environment, this is going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So.
Like that you can't even repair your gas stove or put in
You won't be
a...
able to get parts for a furnace, you won't be able to, any of this, it's.
And then they want to have rules for everybody has to have a sprinkler in their new house or something, and so... Yeah, he's worried that everybody would need extra tanks to do that sort of thing, so.
It's just, look at this building. He tells us we all have to have electric everything in it, and the answer is, well, the system breaks today, we can't replace it, we can't fix it, and we can't get a repair person to put in a new system for 6 months. That's just not a tenable situation to put anybody in. I understand moving people over, I understand trying to put that pressure, but to tell someone in January, you can't fix the furnace, you have to replace it, nobody can do it for 3 months, sorry about that. Just doesn't seem like a system that's not going to work well.
So, are you asking me to put together a resolution or at least get a letter?
So it's like the comment period for this new set of rules, and I don't know what a town has to do to send a letter during a comment period for state rules.
That's what I'm asking. Do we need to make a resolution to authorize me to do that, or?
I think that's the closest we can do.
I would say yes. I didn't see that email, so I really.
I just saw it.
So.
I haven't had a chance to digest it.
Would you like me to forward it to you?
But I'm not going to look at it now.
Okay, I'll forward it to you just so you know what we're talking about.
So if we need to respond by, when did you say it?
I think September 24th.
Today's the 20th. No, today's only the 18th.
It's Tuesday.
Right. So
Can we do it?
can we do a resolution tonight allowing you to put together a letter of comment?
Yeah. I think we're going to have to.
Says I encourage you all to create a resolution to stop these code changes and request the state to develop a responsible transition plan in consideration of rural New York State. So that's what he's asking for.
Stop code changes, and what did you say?
Responsible transition plan in consideration of rural New York.
Okay, I'll just copy it.
Okay, so,
I tried to look at the documents he sent, and, you know, it's hard for a layperson to really understand if that's really what they're saying, but it's, I couldn't find anything
okay, didn't have it until just now.
that would show that he misinterpreted it, so.
Well, if, and I'm not saying he did, if he misinterpreted things and Ruth puts in a comment saying these things won't work, they'll just ignore her comment.
Yeah, well, maybe he can take a look at your letter
Yeah,
or something
I
before you.
wasn't sending it out without everybody
Yeah.
approving it first. But how do we want to write this resolution?
It just
Authorize
authorizes Ruth to
supervisor.
put in a
Write this
comment.
letter, just stop the
Okay.
code changes, and then I'm gonna get the rest of the wording off of the email that you
Yeah.
Okay.
said, that Judy said, and I'm just
I would say stop and modify.
stop or modify code changes. Okay.
For example, if we made the drop dead, if the drop dead date 2030, that would change a lot of the discussion around it, because it would give everybody a chance to transition over, that with the time period that seems more realistic.
So this is in regard to New York State 2025 Energy Code modifications.
Yeah, you have all this in the email.
So we have a motion.
I mean, it sounds like, I mean, without reading it, it sounds like it's sort of a done deal, pretty much, this 2025 energy codes, or that they're trying to push it through like right away, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think that's what he's worried about.
Yeah.
All right, so do I have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Do we need any more description?
You want to say later?
Trust you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you, Christine, for remembering that.
Yeah,
I should have
thank
wrote
you.
it down.
I second that.
Here's one thing I probably should have brought up on my town clerk report, just for people to read it aloud, but there's sort of along the same lines of this, of New York State doing things. It's sitting, waiting for approval from the governor about changing the penalty rates on delinquent taxes, which they claim, if it passes, it'll go into effect January 1st, it would be based on the prime rate, it will only be for residential. This is what I've heard so far, it will only be for residential, so there will really be no way to print a tax bill with like a 1% penalty like it's been in the past. It also will probably lower the amount of penalties that the towns will receive. So everyone's hoping it doesn't happen, but nobody knows for sure. I've been in contact, well, the Association of Towns is the one that's keeping us up to date on that, so just as a heads up, don't really know anything about it, but I don't really know if it goes through how it will ever be implemented, really. Like, if you have to calculate everybody's late bill by hand, I don't know.
Do you do that, or does the county do that?
Do what?
Calculate the late bills?
Well, it's already on your tax bill. So it's 1% if you pay in February, it's 100%, and so on, but you're talking about taking that structure all off and just having something based on what the prime rate is as of January 1st.
And you have to send this out before the end
Well,
of
the
the
tax bills are printed in December.
Yeah, that's right.
And it won't be on every tax bill because it's only for residential. So there's no way that could get printed on any bills.
So what's the why in this? To lower the percentage
help the
to?
residents out, is my understanding.
Okay.
But really, really hope that doesn't go through.
Just make it more confusing.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Anything else? I'm almost afraid to ask.
So what's the forum for next week for the budget meeting, since we haven't been at a budget meeting here? What's the forum for next Wednesday, sorry.
Basically, we'll go through, the spreadsheet that she sends out, the one that Joe showed you, has comments on it, so it kind of explains what most of the items are. We just kind of go through it, ask questions, determine if there are changes you want to make.
One long
That's it, it's just a conversation. I'm sorry, what?
It's just like one long work session,
Yeah.
basically.
It lets us discuss different lines and say, is this too high? Do you think we should put more in this one? What do we want to fund? What do we not want to fund?
Can you describe what personal services means?
It's the payroll accounts. If it's a .1 account, it really is just payroll. Why it's called that, I don't know, it's very confusing.
New York State puts the labels on these things.
They are hiring persons for their services, or employing them.
So that's their pay, essentially?
So if you look at the last three digits on the expenditure items, the .1, .4, they all fall into different categories. The .1 is, like she said, the payroll. .4 is contractual.
Yeah.
I can remember.
Yeah,
.8
it's point
is,
two. So anything, whatever number, SWA, whatever number it is, .1 means it's a payroll account. If it's a .2, it's a equipment. Well, .4 is contractual, which is like all your other expenses.
Okay.
And then anything after those numbers, like if it's .110 or .401, we've just broken it out a little bit more instead of lumping everything together. We've broken it out for clarity, for transparency, those kinds of.
so I can send out just a cheat sheet of what those are.
Okay.
Help you guys.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
It's available on the comptroller's website too. You can go and
Right.
see all the accounts, what they mean, what the accounts are.
It also would be helpful from a department head's perspective if you asked questions before the meeting, because if I come to the meeting, I might not have the answer right on the top of my head. I might need to look at my paperwork to see how I came up with the numbers. So we might be able to give you a better, more accurate answer if you ask us ahead of time.
Yeah, so hopefully there'll be a lot of emails back and forth. And we
Okay.
can discuss those things.
But we're not making decisions at this meeting, so you can ask your questions, you can say, I don't know, I'll get back to you, and just give an answer later.
Well, you're not making, well, you sort of are, because you're coming up with what the changes are that you want to be, so that they can be put into place for the resolution for October.
Yeah, but October's not the final budget either. The final budget's going to be.
Right, but you
No,
have
but
to
it
have
has-
the preliminary done
For
in
the public
October, so that you can have the public hearing in November. So you do need to have those, I would think you need to have those answers and make your decisions at the next meeting, next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, we definitely want to get as much possible done this week, answers questions, all that kind of stuff, so that next week, Jen and I can leave here with all the changes, everything, so that we can start to put together the preliminary budget, so you can approve that preliminary budget at the October meeting. And then, I mean, you can still tweak it for the final, but the preliminary needs to be pretty darn close. Let's not leave like big major decisions between preliminary and final. Because the preliminary will be available to the public. Tentative is just really, really tentative.
And in addition to what you're going to be getting from Jen, I'm going to send out an email too that has some high-level things on it, some other questions that I, want you to help me work through as well. So pay attention to your email this week, please. Okay.
And I go with that too, make sure you get with, don't ask Jen and I questions about a budget that's changing, go to the department heads so they can speak to it. I mean, there's notes in the Excel file that'll give you some explanation. But if you'd like more or question anything, just please go to the department heads. They're happy to let you know.
Yeah, certainly if you want to know more of why or what, please feel free to reach out to all of us.
Yeah.
That'll make the process faster next week as well.
Yes.
And John's not here, but that goes for him as well.
And on that note too, if we get the answers through the week, we can put them into the Excel file. Like we can save this one as is and we'll start another one of what it would look like based on what we've already talked about, thought about in the next week. So we can have that available. What did this do to the fund balance? What did it do to the overall? What did it do to the tax rate? We can have all those preliminary questions answered too.
So, Mary Ellen, would you have what the implications is for fund balance, like Patrick was talking about? We have a policy or philosophy or whatever for 25% of the next year's appropriations. Can you give us an idea, or maybe tell me if it's in here, of like where our fund balance is? And where
there's some in there, and then the spreadsheet will also have the fund balance. You'll be able to see in the spreadsheet the fund balance for each fund in the last 5 years, where it was, and so you can see the trend.
Okay.
And then you'll be able to see what the current budget is doing in the fund balance. Adding to it, taking from it, if we've used any funds, if we're appropriating any fund balance to help balance the budget.
Right.
Which, by the way, does mean you're operating in deficit.
Our fund balance has dropped significantly in the last 5 years, if you look at the audit report.
Oh, yeah. So we've been paying attention to that for 2 years. And last year, we reallocated sales tax to help that. And I know that everybody knows that Jen and I have been broken records saying, watch your budget, no budget bonds. We've been really, really pushing for that. And it's, yes.
It's been different this year.
It has been different this year. It's been excellent this year.
Yeah.
So we have to keep that trend, and it's not a fix we can do all in 1 year, right? When Jen and I were looking at it last year, our estimate is this is going to be probably at least 3 years, maybe 5 years, to really get things up where they need to be without negatively affecting funds that are okay, right? We don't want to take so much away from them that now they are becoming less
safe.
So what I wanted to say is that was one of the spreadsheets I have put together. It's going to be a worksheet that will show you what the fund balances are right now, the percentage that they are, and what they are. And then you can play with the numbers you can play around with the sales tax. Is what we're doing right now, is reallocating the sales tax across the 4 funds, so we can bring some of the ones up that are below our threshold, and bring in the ones that are high. We don't want to bring them down too low, but you can play around with the numbers and look at it based on how, but that's a spreadsheet that I have. It's just a workbook that you can work with.
There's rules about the sales tax and where sales tax can go, so that's very important to know and understand going into that.
Yes, and we do, and we made sure before we did this last year, we talked with AOT, we talked with the comptrollers, and they all said, yes, this is okay. However, having said that, this is not a forever thing.
No.
This isn't to get us back into compliance and better in a safe, financially secure. We're about to get a bond. We don't want any fiscal stress.
Right.
And right now, we're getting there.
We have it.
So yeah, and I would say also with this reallocation of the sales tax, you gotta talk to the department heads too.
Yep.
And what this is gonna be doing to the people that are using the B side. A side, they know, right? We need to get this up, but Mikey's got both sides. And to understand what taking from the B side to give to the A side, what is that going to do to the B side? It might look on paper like, oh, it's going to be fine. But talk to the department head.
Look for your
What their needs are.
Yeah, so I've got three different spreadsheets to show you. One is the property tax, the tax levy portion, the sales tax portion, and then the two combined and how they affect the funds. So that's one of the things I will be sending out tomorrow with an explanation on them.
Yep.
I got a couple of quick questions. I think it was a water fund that was falling into the negative and borrowing from some other funds, or was it?
Oh, it
Or was
was
it lighting fund?
Lighting.
lighting.
So this is the same lighting district that we're about to get the new lighting and the new LED, right? It's, their cost for their electricity just keeps going up. We've got to do something, and so we're gonna have to put some money into it to create to do the LED lighting to help bring the electricity down. We did have to borrow from the A fund to fund that lighting district, it's lighting district 3, the Lake Watch. And there is a plan to start paying that back. Again, that's not gonna be all at once either, but it's a plan, and we're always in touch with the state whenever there's anything going on like this too. And yes, you should be paying it back in the same year, but they also understand that that's not always possible because we can only tax once a year. But if there's a plan going forward, and we are showing that plan going forward, we're good.
So we're in process of paying.
We're in process.
I can speak a little to that. So basically, I've been in touch with NICEAG, and back when we did the upgrades to the LEDs to the Cobra lights all over town, we weren't able to do the post lights, which are down in the Lake Watch area. They just didn't have the technology then. So they asked if the town might be interested in that. And if it goes through in the budget, you'll see a request, just like we do in the special district, for the town to add equipment to a special district. So it's around $3,000 some dollars, give or take, right, for the upgrade to the lighting district, and you're going to see that return over 12 months. So the plan is, get that lighting district out of the red, possibly, we'll see where the rates are, and then those higher rates can pay back the town, the A fund. It's the only way out I could see.
Yeah.
And then lower that monthly cost to the residents of Lake Watch. So that's the plan.
Excellent, thank you.
So
The other question I have is, I know our water pipes are starting to go more and more. Are we starting up with a plan to replace them? And I know that's going to put some money onto the water districts, but hopefully it'll start evening out with all the money that you're paying to repair them, every other week.
Yes. Dave and I had met with Jeff Smith and Nick Enzon of Tompkins County Highway. We are looking at replacing, 800 and some feet plus or minus on Brickyard. With the process of them trying to resurface the road, right, with the stone and oil, and not the best time to put out a bid, we decided to hold off. It'll probably be January.
I just realized.
But we're putting that together, at least that section.
Hey, Mike, I just realized you should be talking to the mic
Oh.
so people at home can hear you.
I'm talking pretty loud.
Yeah.
I know. Does it pick it up that far away,
No,
Mike?
not really.
That one actually does.
Yeah, just-
Yours, you have to basically eat them too, for people to hear, just so you know.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do we have another mic that we can
Yeah.
put over
That's
there
what I
by you
wanted to-
guys? So you wouldn't have to get up and go?
We actually do, yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that
Yeah,
would be
that's,
nice.
So we have like 5 different sections of main that we're looking at, we have been looking at to replace in time. Not all at once, but in essence, what has the most breaks. So we have a plan, it's starting with Brickyard. And then probably, it's either going to be Ridge Road or McKinney's Point.
And it's reflected in the budget that we're going to be starting to have to pay for a replacement of pipes and just,
Yes, it's actually in the
it's in the capital plan as well,
Yeah.
which I need to get to you guys.
I was gonna say, is the capital plan
Yeah.
coming with
No,
this
I can
budget
get
too,
you-
or?
I can get you at least the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Right now.
Yeah.
So, yep, we're on it.
Okay.
So,
love spreadsheets.
So do I.
I'm good with spreadsheets, so. Okay. Anything else I'm afraid to ask? Okay, guys. No, seriously, if you guys have anything else. Can we get a move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so Christine.
I never say anything.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?